We welcome you back to the beautiful city of Chicago for the CBS Sports Classic, first of a scheduled 3-year commitment with these 4 teams. And this is the second game of the afternoon. The UCLA Bruins come in with an 8-3 record. And the top-ranked Wildcats of Kentucky, unblemished. They've blown everybody out of the tub. They come in with an 11-0 record. Hi once again, everybody. Vern Lundquist along with Greg Anthony. This one is going to be interesting, I think. UCLA against Kentucky.
Yeah, UCLA is a team we don't know yet if they're ready for prime time. A lot of issues in terms of the losses to the NBA last season. But they've had some young men step up in Kentucky, folks, as deep as any team we've ever seen. I've never seen a team that was a consensus #1 whose leading scorer averaged 10 points a game. But that's how much depth the Wildcats have.
And let's take a look at Bryce Alford for UCLA.
And Bryce Alford, for me, is the key. I mean, he's their leading scorer and leading assist guy. He's going to have to be on point. He's going to almost have to play a perfect game in terms of his decision-making. They have not seen a team with the length or athleticism that Kentucky possesses.
Well, it's a very young UCLA team, and time now to take a look at the AT&T Fast Analysis.
And we talked about it. The margin for error will be small for UCLA here. They're going to have to do a great job with their screening and execution. There's not going to be a lot of time for them to make decisions, but when they do, they're going to have to be decisive. And one thing about Kentucky, their bigs get a lot of attention, and deservedly so. But they do a good job of spacing, especially when Ulis is in the game. And if they do this, folks, Katie bar the door, because you're just not going to be able to compete if they can make that three-pointer consistently.
Game 2, CBS Sports Classic, Chicago, UCLA and Kentucky. Back with more after this. CBS Sports College basketball coverage is sponsored by the Lincoln Wish List event. Visit your Lincoln showroom today. American Sniper from Warner Brothers Pictures in select theaters December 25th, everywhere January 16th. And by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes cereal. They are great. CBS Sports Classic, United Center, Chicago, Illinois. And a good one, UCLA against the top-ranked Wildcats of Kentucky. And let's go to a third member of our team, Allie LaForce.
Thanks so much, Vern. It can't be easy having one son on a team, let alone 2, but Coach Alford learned the hard way all the way back in high school. You see, his father, Sam, coached him at Newcastle Chrysler High School in Indiana. That's a high school, by the way, that seats close to 10,000 fans. He said his freshman and his sophomore year, when he'd get subbed into the game, fans would boo his name, even his own fans. But then his junior and his senior year, when he was averaging 27 and 37 points a game, the fans would start to boo when he was subbed out of the game. So he saw at an early age how fickle fans can be and how to sort of deal with the father-son coaching relationship.
All right, Allie, thank you. It strikes me, Greg, that Steve Alford turned 50 last fall.
He is a young 50. You know, he was also talking about how his kids got it a lot easier. When he was playing for his dad, he got kicked out of practice 6 or 7 times. You know, that's not been the case for Bryce and his brother at UCLA.
Steve, let's take a look at the UCLA starting lineup. Sam's son and grandson, Bryce Alford, Kevon Looney, Norman Powell, Tony Parker, Isaac Hamilton. And for the Wildcats of Kentucky, Trey Lyles, Andrew Harrison, Willie Cauley-Stein, Aaron Harrison, and Carl Anthony Towns. And the head coach, of course, is John Calipari, now in his 6th season. The officiating crew today, Ed Corbett, Vern Harris, and we've insisted over the year that the proper way to spell Vern is with an E, and Carl Hess. Controlled by Kentucky.
And right out of the box, I don't think it's a stretch to say it's going to be a tall order for UCLA. Of course, I mean that literally. Kentucky is the tallest team in college basketball, and that is not a good sign, because the strategy if you're UCLA is to force Kentucky to beat you from over the top. And if they're making threes, boy, it is a scary proposition for anybody.
That was Aaron Harrison, who over the course of the year, a 26% three-point shooter, but he cans the opening shot of this game. UCLA comes in 8-3, Kentucky unblemished. Tony Parker off the front rim. Karl Anthony Towns with the rebound. And there's Harrison again. In and out this time. Tip. Loose ball controlled by UCLA. Bryce Alford. Feet a little too strong. On the run, 2-on-1. 5-0.
Good job there with the patience by Harrison, in the open floor. And again, we talked about that margin for error. 2 possessions and 2 opportunities for UCLA. They missed the mid-range and then unable to catch that ball there.
Isaac Hamilton with the miss. Here comes Kentucky again. This is Andrew Harrison, number 5. Quickly around to Trey Lyles.
They're pretty good, aren't they? They're pretty good.
My gosh. Trey Lyles, who is in the starting spot now, replacing the injured Alex Poitras. They just keep coming. 7-0 Kentucky lead. If you like Wildcats, this is your game. You're going to see a lot of them today. They too platoon. There's the blue platoon, the starters, and then the white platoon. Now Alex Poitras tore an ACL in practice, so he is out of the mix for the rest of the season. Well, now they've got 9 great players.
And they will still, in essence, platoon. And what Cal talked about is the guy that has had the best feel with the first platoon gets that opportunity with the second. And, it is very difficult to coach this much talent. I mean, and to get all the guys to buy into it. But Cal has done a terrific job thus far. And his kids have really, I think, been unselfish in terms of how they've approached it.
Norman Powell, number 4. There's another turnover. That's Aaron Harrison, who steals it, gives it to his brother, Andrew. Willie Cauley-Stein, number 15, the only junior who played. Here's Harrison. Front rim. Good effort in the corner. Trey Lyles. And it was touched last by UCLA.
And the one thing you do see early on, Kentucky is starting to settle in terms of for the perimeter. They haven't looked to get Towns involved on the interior or Cauley-Stein, and that's something, if you're UCLA, that you have to feel like gives you an opportunity.
There's the empty pass.
Well, 2 more. Of course, as soon as I say that,
of course,
they get it right inside to the big fella.
Another turnover. Harrison, back to Harrison. No look pass. Trey Lyles. Take another look at that entry pass.
And this is where the balance is so important. You talk about balanced football. You want it in basketball, too. You don't want to get too perimeter heavy, especially when you have the kind of talent on the interior that this Wildcat squad has.
Trey Lyles, a freshman from Indianapolis. And it's 10-0.
And really, Vern, the thing I worry about, just looking at UCLA and looking at their players' eyes, they've already lost a little confidence. And that's something you can't have. You got to have that belief system that you can rely upon even when things aren't going well. And right now, they seem to be just a little bit overwhelmed.
Well, already this year, this Kentucky team has defeated 4 ranked teams. Not just defeated them, they've decimated them to the tune of 19.5 points per game.
Yeah, that's been about as impressive a stretch. But in a weird way, though, this is one of the more experienced teams that Cal has had, even though they've got a lot of sophomores and underclassmen. These guys have played so many big moments in big games. Trey Lyles, Anthony Towns there with the putback. And think of it this way. Here's the guy, Anthony Towns. Most think is going to be maybe the 2nd pick in the draft.
Right.
This upcoming season. He only took 1 shot against North Carolina. Only got 1 field goal attempt in the game.
Kentucky fans are hoping for a shutout. So far, they've gotten one. Harrison. Worth another look. Timeout, UCLA.
Now, do you think that Jim Harbaugh, you might as well bring this up, will be a coach for the 49ers next year, or is he heading to Michigan?
You want my uneducated response?
I do. And it is not uneducated.
The late Bob Ufer would refer to the school in Ann Arbor as Michigan.
You saw,
read anything you want to.
Yeah, exactly. You saw Steve Alford there. He's familiar with Michigan and Big Ten basketball. Right now, he's trying to figure out a way to get his team some confidence.
Hell ball. Possession arrow, UCLA.
And the thing that's, for me, most impressive, it's not just the unselfishness of this group for Kentucky. It's the level of intensity and their ability to sustain it for long stretches that's most impressive.
Again, flanked. Carl Anthony Towns with the rebound.
I was waiting for a mistake from Kentucky. We finally saw something that didn't go well.
Well, John Calipari's looking for some coaching moments. He just found one. There's the second platoon who's come on the floor. Aaron Harrison stays, but the other starters are going to get a break. And we've got Marcus Lee, Devin Booker, Tyler Ulis, and Bakari Johnson. Aaron Harrison, the sophomore, one of the two.
And unlike most teams when they go to their bench, there is no drop-off.
No, none.
For Kentucky. The intensity defensively with Ulis at the point will stay, and still very capable offensively with this group as well.
That's Tyler Ulis, that is. And still no points for a foul is called on Devin Booker. And for more on UCLA, let's check in with Allie LaForce.
Thanks, Vern. Coach Alford was fired up in those last two timeouts. He said the team is playing soft. He said it's about fight and effort, and they're showing him none. He also was really dissatisfied with their defensive effort and letting Kentucky just catch the ball. He says get in the passing lanes, make it difficult for them to make those catches. It'll make things a lot easier defensively.
All right, Allie, thank you.
And Allie, really what he's basically saying is his kids aren't competing. And that's what happens when the confidence isn't there, that you can compete. A tremendous challenge for Coach Alford to get his kids to buy in.
Marcus Lee was the young man who knocked that out of bounds. Lee heads to the bench. Still nothing. Still nothing. UCLA has missed its first 10 shots of the game. 16-0. This is Tyler Ulis, 5'9". And you like his play.
I tell you, he is such a difference maker on both ends. Gives him a different look. And Bakari Johnson unable to convert there. And
Willie Cauley-Stein is back on the floor, number 15. He is guarding Devon Looney. Another miss. How about this Kentucky defensive bunch?
Oh, my goodness.
Look at that.
It's just hard. And it's not as if they've played inferior competition. I mean, they've played some really good teams this year. A team that we saw earlier in North Carolina that they didn't really have a lot of problems with. So they are loaded.
A crossover for Ulis, but he misses the shot. UCLA is now 0 for 13 in this game. That's for 3. 0 for 14. Tip safely back to the teammate. Here's Ulis. Dakari Johnson, number 44. Marcus Lee.
Still hard to believe that UCLA hasn't seen the ball go through the basket. I mean, it's just nothing easy against the depth and the intensity from a defensive standpoint of this Kentucky squad.
And that one rejected by Kevon Looney. Well, almost not exactly 5 minutes and 53 seconds without a basket for UCLA. Harrison. Rare miss. Here's Bryce Alford, number 20. And a foul. Devin Booker. Tomorrow in 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley reports from Cuba on the historic shift in relations, plus a surprising interview with the godfather of the Tea Party, Senator Tom Coburn, tomorrow, only CBS. Still nothing. Devin Booker, 19 zip.
And really, what's even more impressive is we talked about in the first game like how difficult it is to play with the big league, but because of this depth, it doesn't feel like a big league for Kentucky because these kids haven't had a chance to get out and compete. They want to prove they're every bit as good as that first platoon, if you will, and so far so good.
And they're on the run. Here's Booker, kicks it out. Ulis into the corner for three. Kentucky fans have certain expectations and passion, do they not?
They sure do. And you hate to see a competitor have to experience this on the side with which UCLA is, because they have been overwhelmed physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Booker.
What'd you say, Vern? Did you say Booker?
I did.
I don't know if they heard you. I think you said Booker.
I did. 24 zip. It has been an exhilarating start for Kentucky. It has been a devastating start for UCLA. It's embarrassing. You can use every adjective you can think of. That was another timeout by Steve Albert. Joe Bruin still hopeful, but it is 24-0.
And credit Steve Alford and his staff. He's still coaching. And even though it looks bleak in terms of the game, you still want to continue to improve as a basketball team. You cannot lose the confidence with the UCLA. You have to get that belief system back. And early on, boy, it is lacking.
Finally. But then the onslaught comes at you from the other end. 2-on-2. Out of bounds. It took 7 minutes and 48 seconds for UCLA to score.
And not only that, look, that was not an easy shot. I mean, that's a high degree of difficulty to get that finish to go by Looney. Just unbelievable defense across the board from Kentucky here to start this game.
Jumper, Harrison. 2. That's Andrew Harrison.
I don't think I've ever witnessed a start to a game, Powell unable to convert there like this one.
Well, I'm just thinking, you and I are not known for silence.
Oh, my goodness.
But you become speechless. What do you say? Except that it is the second television timeout. Second. And UCLA has 2 points. That is not a typographical error. 26-2 with 11:19 to go first half. And now planning for success. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
For us to have a chance, we've got to value the ball. We've got to have a low turnover game. We can't give them easy baskets. We've got to make them make jump shots and hope that the shots that they miss, they don't rebound all of them. So we've got to do a good job on the backboard, and defensively, we've got to do a good job of making them shoot jump shots. On the offensive side, take care of the ball, play our style, get some shots, and obviously when you're playing the number 1 team in the country, you got to make some shots.
You know, we, Greg, chatted with Steve yesterday. I think he was realistic about the chances they had of winning this, but I don't think in his wildest nightmares he envisioned this kind of scenario.
And that's the point we were making earlier. You would just hope that your kids could compete. And not necessarily, I'm not talking about competing on the scoreboard. I meant just physically going out to compete. You know, there's nothing wrong with being up against a team that has more talent. But
right.
You can't allow that to take away your fight as a competitor. That's what we saw in that first stretch of this game from UCLA.
Nice feed. Willie Cauley-Stein, no. Missed it. Here comes Norman Powell, the senior, number 4. And as painful as it might be for UCLA fans, take a look at their struggles.
It is. You know, you can see there that just the short arming shots, they're not playing on their toes. They're on their heels. They lack the aggression and the confidence. And, you know, in a weird way, maybe now they can settle down because the game, I don't want to say it's out of reach, but it is probably. But now they can just try to play basketball, you know.
Alford into the corner. On the line, another turnover. That's 5. Kentucky's lost it once. I've mentioned during the timeout, Bill Raftery and I last year did UConn at Louisville. End of the regular season. And Louisville beat UConn 44 points by 44.
You mean the UConn team that went on?
That would be the one.
Yeah.
That then won 6 in a row. And crowned it for Kevin Ollie with the national championship. So they went into the March Madness on something of a downer. I'm not suggesting anything.
No, but the point you make is that this is one of those nights where, you know, you've heard of guys being in a zone, like in terms of their shooting.
Right.
To start this game, Kentucky's entire team was in a zone, defensively, offensively. You know, they were just in so much sync, and that confidence grew, and obviously UCLA came in here with a little bit of doubt as to whether they could compete.
Tony Parker is on for UCLA, number 23, another of the seniors. Here's Alford. Trey Lyles guarding him. Powell, entry pass, Walsh can't hang on. Loose ball.
There's just no space with which to operate in the half court for UCLA. Kentucky's not only long and athletic, but they're well coached. I mean, they're always in position to make an attempt to attack the basketball defensively.
Well, you mentioned that John Calipari now in his 6th year. This might be early in the season, obviously, one of his better coaching jobs.
Oh, there's no doubt because of the talent. I mean, that's just total domination. And the reason I say that is because you're dealing with 9 guys who expect to play at the next level. And for them to buy in to playing for one another is so impressive. Leading scorers averaging 10 points a game. Your leading scorer. And you see here just great job with getting in the passing lane by Willie Cauley-Stein, and then the unselfishness of Lyles to reward the guy who made the play on the defensive side. And that guy right there for me, Willie Cauley-Stein, I have him as the National Player of the Year, even though he's only averaging 10. His numbers don't overwhelm you, but what he's allowing his team to do because of all the little things he does well, there's no way he cannot be in that conversation moving forward.
He's a 7-footer who has the agility of a 5'10 guard. Back outside, 28-2. Shot clock violation. Willie, remember what we were talking about? Willie Cauley-Stein, a football player, wide receiver in Olathe, Kansas. 64 catches for 1,265 yards and 15 touchdowns. Earlier in his career, in a small town about 3 hours from Kansas City, he was the quarterback of an 8-man football team.
My goodness. And, you know, in a way, he's having a similar impact on this team to what Anthony Davis did on that championship team, in that whenever your best player doesn't need the basketball to be effective, it allows other guys to play to their strengths. And not the offensive player that Anthony Davis was, but every bit as impactful defensively.
Well, the fresh 4 coming on now for John Calipari. Booker, Ulis. And let's go to Allie.
You mentioned that Cauley-Stein was a football player. Well, then he grew 7 inches the summer before his freshman year, so he started playing basketball. And his grandmother, Norma, used to take his birth certificate to games in case people questioned his age because he was that much bigger than everyone.
He's something. Thanks, Allie. Nope, it won't go. 1 basket so far.
And that growth spurt, Vern, is what gives him the lateral quickness, because he was a small perimeter-oriented guy with great feet and the ability to move and change directions, and he's been able to maintain that. And they're going to get lead with the push-off there. He's been able to maintain that even though he's had that growth spurt.
Willie Cauley-Stein. Pretty good. We're back in Chicago. Take a look at that top line. 1 of 23 to 11 for 22. 8 turners for 3. This is a stat sheet. We're given one of these at every television timeout. Greg just looked at me and he said, I've never seen anything quite like this. 8 turnovers, 1 of 23. All zeros down here. Points in the paint, too.
Yeah,
and then
it is.
Zeros.
I'm almost speechless. For a guy who likes to talk, that's saying a lot.
That's 2 of us.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you know, you do run out of adjectives.
Yeah, the superlatives, there comes a point when you just can't continue to be impressed with just how effective Kentucky is at both ends. Oh! All right, there we go.
Tony Parker gets the basket. Ulis is the point guard now. 5'9" freshman from Lima, Ohio. Dakari Johnson. There we go. Another 3. Aaron Harrison. Harrison has 11 points already.
Yeah, he's done the job of getting out of that slump that he had been in. Has not shot it as well as he would have liked, but you can see a good rhythm there.
And there was Dakari Johnson defensively to alter the shot. Here comes Ulis into the corner. Entry pass. Offensive foul as Johnson was trying to establish a low post position. Get the fastest scores and updates for UCLA, Kentucky, and all teams with the CBS Sports app, the fastest app for sports fans. Download the CBS Sports app now.
And you saw the foul on Dakari Johnson. He's their best post-up player. Booker's probably the best shooter, but they have a lot of good basketball players, and that's what's been impressive. It's so hard to sustain intensity over 40 minutes. Especially when you don't necessarily get to play a game you're comfortable playing in terms of Kentucky, because most of these guys have all been the best player on their team at some point where they get to shoot the ball, in essence, whatever they want. But here they're being forced to learn to play with other good players and share, and it's been impressive.
Alford, ball loose, rejected by Aaron Harrison. Another Alford shot, high off the glass. Tip, Euless has it. 4-on-2. Devin Booker, another freshman out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You almost wish there was a mercy rule.
I do too. Yep.
You start to feel sorry for kids, and you hate to see it. But great effort there on the putback.
Yeah, you need a 10-run rule.
Well, it's tough to watch. It's impressive to watch what this Kentucky team is capable of. I mean, defensively, as good as I've seen at this level in a long time.
Steve Alford was telling us yesterday about the expectations for this UCLA team. He's in his second year. They were altered substantially. That's a miss. When 3 UCLA players declared for the NBA draft.
Only team in the country last year to lose 3 players to hardship to the first round. And, you know, I think they expect, you see the putback attempt there, draws a foul. They expected Kyle Anderson to go, but I think Jordan Adams and Zach Levine were 2 guys they were probably expecting to come back. And if you put that level of talent on this group, you're going to have a pretty competitive team. So clearly still a transition year for the Bruins.
Lee misses the first. Now 4 men. Come on, 5. How many? A wave.
Well, I can tell you what, 4 that just came on are going to be first rounders. So it's not as if they're bringing in the backups. These guys they are just retooling.
Kentucky's number 12, Carl Anthony Towns.
And you see Kentucky hasn't let up. They continue to play their style, not the score, which again, you know, you're not looking to run the score up, but we're in the first half, and you don't want to lose this edge as a coach if you're Rick Pitino. You want your kids to learn how to compete for 40 minutes.
Next Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern, Arizona State against Duke. Our SEC on CBS football crew moves to El Paso. Gary Danielson, Allie LaForce, Carter Blackburn is going to give me a chance to spend Christmas at home, and I'm thankful for that.
That's going to be fun. You're going to have a little white Christmas.
Yeah, we got some snow going in Steamboat Springs.
And that's adding a little bit of insult to injury there when you got to get a bloody nose.
Yes. Andrew Harrison, number 5, brings it across the timeline. Collie Stein is back on. Entry pass and a foul.
Usually fouls number 23. Tony Parker.
Foul is on Parker. Steve Alford, Indiana, 87. Coached at Manchester, Southwest Missouri State, now Missouri State, Iowa, New Mexico. Now in his second year at UCLA.
And had terrific success everywhere he's been. And obviously as a player as well, winning the national championship, and Powell's going to get the foul.
Well, Steve, 50, has 2 sons on this basketball team. This is for his career, 19.5. One of the great shooters. And look at his son.
I was checking out the shorts that Steve Alford had. Those are pretty short. Yes, that's where the term short came from, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you came along a little later. Those guys at Michigan had changed the style.
Yeah, they sure had. And I remember Alford that year. They actually beat my Rebels in the Final Four. That was back in '87, and went on to have that epic battle with Syracuse. The squad led by Derek Coleman. That was an unbelievable game. Keith Smart hits that baseline jumper to secure that national championship.
Nice save. Wow. Trey Lyles. Carl Anthony Towns in the low post. Calls for it, gives a little hip check. Back outside. There you are. Carl Anthony Towns.
And that's an example. Here's a guy that has as much talent as anybody in college basketball, and you don't often get to see it because of just the overwhelming ability that all of these guys have. And he's just not a feature. But what he is learning how to play with good players, which is, I think, something that oftentimes people lose sight of. It's a talent to be able to play with skilled players and to be able to share and be unselfish. And
2:42 to go, first half.
And the hits just keep on coming.
I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like this. 39-7.
And it's really the defense. Like, 39 points, that's not a number that blows you away. It's the 7.
Yeah.
They've given up is what's
over the top. Tony Parker. Well, extraordinary. About as much as you can say. Extraordinary.
And Vern, I may have misspoken and called John Calipari Rick Pitino. I don't think that's allowed in Lexington, or even in Chicago for that matter. So I apologize if that were the case. I may be at a loss for words right about now with what I'm watching.
Nice cover.
Yeah.
I like that. I think I did hear you say Rick, and I thought, it's just let that slide. I mean, after all, I'm totally blameless. I've never misidentified anybody, including Derek Willis, number 35, who just had the ball. That one's a miss. Collie Stein can't quite get the rebound. Under 2 to go, first half. Isaac Hamilton, the sophomore, Los Angeles. Derek Willis grabs it. Collie Stein at the other end. We're looking in the books for low points and a half for UCLA.
In the shot clock era, I don't know that you're going to see anything this
right. 85-86. 1:10 to go, and the Bruins stuck on 7. Whoops. Thomas Welsh grabbed the rebound, number 40, the 7-foot freshman. Alford for 3. Look at the position for Collie Stein.
And how about the fact that Carl Anthony Towns can actually guard the point guard up top? That was impressive as well.
Alford is 0 for 6 in the game. Norman Powell. Air ball.
It was a nice decision there by Collie Stein because he had Willis on the breakaway. They decided to hold that up and just go for the last shot there. I have a feeling there'll be plenty of opportunities for Willis in the second half.
Yes.
To score.
Reminder coming up at the half, Adam Zucker, Doug Gottlieb, and Seth Davis. I can't wait to hear what those three have to say. They'll get you caught up on what's going on today in college basketball. AT&T at the half. John Calipari is with Allie. Allie?
Coach, you started this game with 24 unanswered points and didn't look back from there. How do you keep your team focused and disciplined in a game like this?
Well, we're trying to play against ourselves, but let me say this. This team's going home for 4 days for Christmas. They're excited. You can tell. They're going home.
What do you focus on in the second half?
I just want us to make sure we execute and everybody gets a chance. They play like this half. Tyler and Devin will play more. They're going to get their 13 minutes in. We're platooning like I've been. We even threw Derek and Dom in there, and they both played well.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Allie, thank you. That's the end of the first half. Extraordinary. Let's go to Adam Zucker in our New York studios. CBS Sports College basketball coverage is sponsored by Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry. AT&T, mobilizing your world. And by Buick, celebrate the holidays by experiencing the new Buick. We are back in Chicago, United Center on Madison Street, west of the Loop. Vern Lundquist, Greg Anthony trying to figure what we're going to say. 41-7.
Yeah, you know, I started thinking we're going through historically. Remember 79, Duke, North Carolina.
Yep.
Bill Foster was coach at Duke. Dean Smith. They played the spread, the four corners offense. 7-0 was the score at halftime. Now that was the same Duke team that had lost the championship the year before to who? Kentucky.
Yeah.
Although that was a game where they were trying not to score. UCLA did try to score in that first half.
Bernard and Kaminsky are saying, of course you remember that. First half stats presented by Coca-Cola. Look at that. 3 of 37 from the field. 0 of 9. And it just gets worse the farther down you go.
Yeah.
These are the fewest points ever registered in the first half by UCLA, ever.
And there have been a few instances where teams have actually scored less than 7. But I don't know that I've seen a more impressive defensive performance for 20 minutes than I just witnessed in that first half.
And they start off with Marcus Lee off a feed from Tyler Ulis, 43-7. Now we've had the Google guys busy at halftime, and according to our research from the guys downstairs, here's Alford who looks for his first basket. There we go. That's a 3 from Isaac Hamilton. Northern Illinois in 2013 scored 5 points and a half and then topped that with 4 points later on. So,
but I don't think they were a team, and it wasn't, I don't think UCLA should have been either a team that was a preseason top 25 team.
Right. Here's Ulis. Back outside. Devin Booker, as John Calipari told Allie, is going to get a lot of playing time. Speaking of whom, let's check in with Allie right now.
I asked a very somber Coach Alford, what did you tell your team at halftime? He said, we just have to keep working. We have to work hard and try to get better. And I said, how much of it is effort and how much is a gap in talent? And he said, it's not effort. It's simply we're not executing. It's the worst guard play that we've had the entire season.
Thank you, Allie. Here's the jumper off the mark. Rebound, Marcus Lee. Ulis. Booker. Rebound, Marcus Lee. And he'll go to the free throw line.
Yeah, the guard play was not very good, but it really was the entire play of the team. The guards didn't perform well, but listen, they were overwhelmed. You could see they were shell-shocked. It's difficult when you haven't played a team like this, Kentucky, to prepare because you're not going to see anyone in the country with this much size and athleticism and activity on the defensive end. And so you can talk about it, but you can't simulate it. And if you can't withstand that early onslaught, which was the case here today, it's going to be a challenge for your team to really psychologically deal with this, because this is the kind of performance that can stay with your group for an extended period of time.
Powell. It was like they were oblivious.
Yeah, but I think the clock was wrong. I don't think
really?
that was
okay.
35 seconds
Yeah.
of a possession there. They're going to have to go back and take a look at where the ball, where the shot clock was when they took possession. Yeah, I think they're going to 15 is what.
Okay.
The shot clock is going to reset. There's like 15 seconds.
Shot clock malfunction. So 15 put back on the clock. Alford.
Looking at the number 2, Aaron Harrison. His first
Foul is on Aaron Harrison. That's his first. Well, we mentioned that Trey Lyles, who's not on the floor right now, got the start because Alex Poitras tore an ACL. You see, not a big presence statistically, but a big presence in an emotional sense, a leader.
That's a great point. And then also, really, in terms of who they are, this is a defensive-oriented team. He was a terrific defender in terms of his versatility to guard multiple positions, block shots, rebound the basketball, just a lot of things. But they haven't skipped a beat, and really in some ways you could argue they're somewhat better because it's more minutes now to dole out between fewer guys.
Timeout Kentucky.
Timeout Kentucky as they were trying to control the loose ball. 17:33. Little no-look pass. Time call. We welcome you back to the United Center in Chicago. 44-10. UK's coach John Calipari talking to Eddie Corbett. What's he complaining about the calls?
I thought he was paying homage to my coach, Tarkanian, chewing on a towel.
Yeah, I did too. Very good.
That's what came to mind for me.
Dakari Johnson scans the two. Well, we've got an SEC school here in Kentucky leading almost like a blowout football game, 46-10 right now. My SEC partner, Gary Danielson, sent us a text in the first half and said, it's 27-2. Do you want to take some calls?
Yeah.
So I wrote him back, and I texted him back, and I said, Greg wants to know what we should be talking about. And he said, you might want to talk about Lane Kiffin. Oh, mercy. We need some. Into the corner. Powell, jumper. Got one.
Good shot. And again, you feel for UCLA. I mean, they've had a reasonably good start to the season as you see the second platoon getting ready to check in for Kentucky. But the onslaught continues.
Yeah, it does.
And I just tweeted something out. You know, for me as a competitor, I hate to see anybody be dismantled like this because I know all these kids are competitors. They want to go out and put their best foot forward. They want to go out and show they can play at a high level. But you got to credit Kentucky. They just were not to be denied here in terms of their performance. Isaac Hammond able to knock that down, and then Lee not able to finish.
Nope.
This is kind of a SEC score, right? 49-14.
It is, yeah. Yeah. Well, here's one of the few things that's going wrong for the Wildcats. When you're kids and you're close friends, it doesn't matter that it's 49-14. These young boys have a reason to enjoy the afternoon. The 1975 national championship game between UCLA and Kentucky, the final game in the career of the legendary John Wooden. The Bruins used only 6 players led by Richard Washington, who scored 28 points as UCLA prevailed 92-85 for the last of Coach Wooden's record 10 national titles.
Joe B. Hall was the coach on that Kentucky team. And you know what? UCLA, you can see, look, we got more titles. They've got 11 to Kentucky's 8. But the way this one's looking, it might be 11-9 by the time this season's over, because you are going to have your work cut out for you against this Kentucky team. You know, the biggest challenge in playing Kentucky, your kids have to really believe. I went through this when I was in college. We played a lot of teams that truly never felt they could compete with us. And you get the travel call there, and that that aspect of it from a psychological standpoint can be an issue moving forward. And so you wonder how teams, they're going to see this performance. They see and they respect how good this Kentucky team is, the length, the athleticism, the intensity with which they play. Even if they don't shoot it well, it's not like they were gunning here. I mean, they only had 41 in the first half, but, you know, that's a lot when you only give up 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Alford. Little bank shot.
Bryce Alford.
Finally getting an opportunity to talk about Bryce Alford, who's really been one of the most improved players in the country. And if you think about where they were a year ago, I don't think Steve Alford thought that his son would be the leading scorer on his team this season.
Well, that goes back, Greg, to the 3 fellows who declared, and all of a sudden you've got Bryce Alford, who is averaging 18 points per game as a sophomore. He's got a brother, Corey, who's also on the team, but Corey doesn't get the minutes.
He made a night.
Yeah, right. you are right. There's Corey Alford. (50-16) from the corner. No,
I don't know that I've ever seen this many Kentucky fans this quiet. It's hard for them to even stay engaged when you have a game that ends up looking the way this one does.
Powell, one of the 2 seniors on the starting 5, is Isaac Hamilton. Crossover. Yeah.
Travel there on And, you know, these 2 teams have also, as Welsh checks into the game, have signed for home and home.
That's right.
Next season.
Yep.
So,
first home and home series, I think. Don't they play at Pauley next year, and then at Rupp Arena the year after? Harrison.
Get him, Will.
This is Andrew Harrison, number 5. Cauley Stein.
And that's another area where he's really improved. I really, you didn't get to appreciate it to the level that you will as the season progresses, but he is a special player. And I said this last week, you know, you have guys on your team that you can win with because they do some good things, but Willie Cauley-Stein's the kind of guy you win because of when you have him on your roster.
Go, go.
Off the glass and good. Javon Looney. Andrew Harrison. Dominique Hawkins is also on the court. He's got the ball in his hands right now. Number 25. Here's Harrison. No. Welsh grabs it.
Good job defensively there by UCLA. I feel like it's been a long time since we actually discussed anything relevant to the game because of this one getting out of hand kind of early. But
yeah, when you get out 28-2 in the first half,
a lot of the stuff we discussed in the production meeting kind of goes out of the window.
Don't you think? Yeah.
You hear Mr. Cornell and Silver in the production truck, our producer and director.
Yeah.
I think they're scratching their heads right now.
If they're in the same canoe with us, they are.
I want to take a look at this play with Willie Cauley-Stein, and this doesn't look like much, but you take a look at him here. Watch what he does in terms of the read and space. You see when he read the play, he saw that his defender broke towards the sideline baseline, and he just spaces the floor. It's not nothing that shows up in the stat, but it's just a great read. That's his instincts as a basketball player have really improved over his tenure here under John Calipari, and that's one of the things why I think when this guy gets to the next level, he is going to be an impact player for a good team.
His first team's third.
Eulis.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
What do you think?
That's a Arizona's really special. I mean,
Do you have a
Stanley
rooting
Johnson.
interest in that game?
You know, I always pull for my alma mater, but I have the utmost respect for Sean Miller and the job he's done. He's got a terrific freshman in Stanley Johnson who you get a chance to see him, folks, he is electric, as athletic as anybody in college basketball. But that'll be a challenge.
Ulis back into the corner. Got it. Devin Booker, as during a stop clock, John Calipari pulled the 5 and the 4, put another fresh 5 back out there.
I like to tweet, so I have my Twitter feed up here, and I'm getting a lot of questions, people asking, could this Kentucky team compete with my collegiate team? And what I'd like to see is this team play the Anthony Davis team. That's what I would like to see, because that would be an amazing matchup. You talk about a court full of athletes and competitors.
Well, I hate to give my friend Gary Danielson too much credit, but one of the things he thought we could discuss is, and he was being sarcastic, up and under, could this Kentucky team compete with Detroit or Philadelphia?
No.
Okay.
No, let's squash that now. They are a terrific team collegiately, and we used to get those comparisons.
Right.
We couldn't compete with an NBA team. No.
You know what has changed, Greg, so much from when you guys won the national title with Tarkanian your junior year. You were all veterans, seniors and juniors. And we just don't see that anymore, especially with this Kentucky outfit.
No, you don't. And listen, that is also in part because of the evolution of the game. Kids are far further along, I think, athletically. The skill set is at a higher level. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're better basketball players, but their talent level is higher. And so that's why you're seeing them have more of an opportunity to perform at this level.
Devin Booker from the corner. Kentucky rolling. CBS Sports College basketball coverage is sponsored by Microsoft Surface. Dr. Pepper, always one of a kind. And by Lexus. The Lexus December to Remember sales event is here, now through January 5th. Back at the United Center, when you watch something like this Kentucky team, comparisons become inevitable. They are so good. But in 1996, there was a pretty decent Kentucky team. They won the national championship. Antoine Walker was one of their stars, and he is with Allie LaForce.
He sure was, Vern. Antoine, how proud are you to be a Wildcat right now?
Oh, it's unbelievable right now to be an alumnus from there right now, to watch this team, and just to be a part of this. This is unbelievable today.
Have you ever seen a game this dominant before?
Not really. I thought we had one in '96 when we played UCLA, but no, this is unbelievable. I didn't think it was going to be like this. I'm mad I came now.
The real question is, if this Kentucky team played the 1996 national championship team, who do you think would win?
I'm a little biased. Well, I think obviously we'll win. But the one thing that's funny about that is about our two teams is that we're both very deep. We both can play 10 deep. We had 10 pros too, so a lot of people don't know that. But I think our styles of plays are so different. We press, and they so big inside. So put it like this, it'll be a good game.
What are some of the challenges these players are going through? Just knowing how good they are, but having to share time.
It's unbelievable. I give Calipari so much credit for what he's been able to pull off to get 9, 10 All-Americans to buy into a system and believe in just winning the championship, and they will fulfill their goals down the line. It's unbelievable. It's all on him. I don't know how he did it. I know as a player, if I was coming out, I wouldn't want to go play with 8, 9 other All-Americans. I would want to play so I can get a lot of playing time, but they bought into it, and it's fun to watch.
Antoine, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the game.
All right, thank you.
Well, that's terrific, Greg.
That is. And he hits on the head what was so impressive about this. Most kids wouldn't want to play with this much talent because maybe they don't feel, or their people, the families and those that are associated with them, that they can be able to separate themselves and create that distinction that would make them more likely to be drafted. But these kids have bought into it, and it has been impressive to watch.
That's Thomas Welsh for UCLA. Dakari Johnson, there's a foul called. You just pointed out, too, something. December 10th at Rupp Arena in Lexington, the mighty Columbia University basketball team jumped out 11-0 against this Kentucky team, and they actually led at the half.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of basketball. And it's one reason why the tournament is so compelling, because oftentimes the best team doesn't win. It's a single game elimination. And if you have one of those games against Columbia,
right,
and maybe they're a little bit better than Columbia, you don't advance. And we've seen it happen, and we see it happen every season.
Every year. Yeah.
As great as this team is, and they are truly special, and it's a joy really to watch how unselfish a group this talented is. There also has to be some good fortune when you are crowned a national champion, and all you got to do is go back to a season ago. You pointed out UConn gets beat by 44 in the regular season. Did you think they had a chance to win a national championship after that game?
No. And Bill Raftery didn't either, by the way. And then while you guys were watching Kentucky, you and Jim Nance, we were watching UConn. And, of course, the two, UConn and Kentucky, in the national title. Here's Derek Willis. .8:24 to go. Tony Parker foul. Well, this week's top 10. Kentucky, Duke, Arizona, Louisville, Wisconsin. I mean, we're talking a lot about what we're seeing today, but you like some of those teams.
Listen, that Virginia team, a lot of men, a lot of veterans on that Tony Bennett squad. How about Villanova comes back? They were being dismantled in that game. They come back winning overtime. Arizona, as gifted athletically as anybody in the country. Louisville, how about the matchup about a week from now, a little over a week from now, between Kentucky and Louisville? You think there'll be a little venom and vitriol in Louisville for that one?
Oh, my goodness.
You know, so there are a lot of Wisconsin and Duke. Duke is terrific. I love watching the way they play. They've got seniors and veterans to go complement that freshman talent they have. So there are a lot of really good teams. Granted, none have been any more impressive than what we've seen from Kentucky really over the course of the season, but it's still a lot of basketball yet to be played.
Willis from the corner misses. 67-24. Let me repeat myself. 67-24. Game summary. Field goal percentage, UK just under 50, 19% for UCLA. And this is the second game of the first CBS Sports Classic in Chicago. Ohio State and North Carolina in the first.
Yeah, I thought North Carolina for about 30 minutes looked as good as they've looked all season. You know, terrific passing. Marcus Page got into a nice flow offensively, and they got after it defensively as well, but didn't finish it the way they would have liked in terms of the free throw shooting and turnovers down the stretch. But I think their best basketball as well is ahead of them, and I'm interested to see how they progress once conference play starts.
Well, let's check on the floor for Kentucky. Andrew Harrison, Trey Lyles, Cauley Stein, Karl Anthony Towns, and Derek Willis. Pick and roll, jumper, in and out. Pull-up jumper, Hamilton.
And it goes without saying, but they've been a little bit more fluid offensively in the second half.
Monday on CBS, 'tis the season for a holiday episode of NCIS Los Angeles. Join in the fun Monday at 10, 9 Central. Only CBS. Bryce Alford will pump fake, and the jumper is good.
And what you've seen the last two possessions is what Steve Alford was talking about with Allie. Just they didn't come out and compete. They didn't come out and play with the kind of pace and assertiveness they're showing here. And that's really all you want. It's not a matter of whether or not you win. It's just really a matter of whether or not you're going to compete and put forth the effort. And I think they're starting to show some of that here in the second half.
Nice defensive play, but the ball goes into the hands of Trey Lyles, and he is fouled.
UCLA fouls number 10, Isaac Hamilton, his first.
Shot foul.
Team's fifth.
Lyles will go to the line.
Line to shoot two.
freshman out of Indianapolis.
And this is a kid that really has a tremendously high skill set. 6'9", really a true perimeter player in terms of his ability to stretch it, put it on the floor.
Well, this Kentucky team about to go 12-0. And it's about this point of the season, people start talking about, can they go undefeated?
Yeah, listen, I think they're going to have some tests. The other advantage, though, listen, the SEC not quite as good as it was a season ago. I do think Billy Donovan in Florida will right their ship, if you will. Nice finish there by Lyles. But listen, it's not out of the realm. I think the real question is, if you're John Calipari, you probably don't want to have that conversation. I think the key is whether or not you lose in the tournament. I think that's all he's going to be focused on there is Looney with the putback.
Kevon Looney slams it home for 2, 70-29. Well, the last undefeated team, 1976, the Hoosiers of Indiana. Bob Knight, Scott May. Pretty good team.
That was a great team. And, you know, they were great the season before that as well. Injuries kind of derailed them from having a chance to win it. But that was a terrific basketball team. You think back to a season ago, Wichita State was a team that had that run. We were fortunate enough to take a team to the Final Four that was undefeated as well. So not out of the realm, especially with how good this team is defensively. And I think that's the key is you see Alford able to knock down that triple. The key for them is that they can win against great competition when they struggle offensively because of how dominant they are on the defensive side.
Andrew Harrison. Now here's Alford, who was scoreless in the first half. He's got 10 in this half. Add 3 more. That's good to see.
That is good to see. Just, you know, you're just right now just trying to shake off what happened psychologically in that first half and have something and you can feel good about it for UCLA.
A little too strong at the rim for Kevon Looney. Willis, Andrew Harrison. Looks like Devin Booker's about to come back. So is Ulis. Derek Willis. It just keeps growing.
Yeah. They do tend to come at you with waves.
Mercy. Willis. Another 3. 4:35 to go in this one. Kentucky at the half, it was 41-7 if you joined us late. And for UCLA, Alford started 0 for 6. He's hit his last 5. So something to think about on the way home, the long trek back to Los Angeles. Bryce Alford.
Yeah. And he's had a terrific season thus far. Just gotten off to just a horrific start here today. But you can see the ability to shoot it much like his father is evident.
4:30 to go, 76-35. Baseline drive. Parker turns around. There was Dakari Johnson to alter the shot, and that's going to be UCLA's ball. I'm just curious. You know, Antoine Walker talked to Allie about they had 10 players that they used. Anybody else come to mind in terms of platooning like this?
There have been a few teams. That Kentucky team did it as well. And to his point with the 9, there have been several teams that have done it. I mean, we didn't play 10. I think Arkansas, I remember, under Nolan Richardson would go 8 or 9 deep, and at times you could go 10. I don't know at this level that I've seen where you've got 9 or 10. I mean, you've seen guys develop, even on that team that Antoine was on. Those guys developed, and they also had a little bit more experience. He's got a lot of young players on this group. I would like to see that matchup, too, because Antoine Walker brought up a great point as you see Booker knocking down another triple. they pressed. And when you can press and speed teams up and make them play faster than they want and turn them over, you can create some problems and you can take them out of that comfort zone. I'll be interested to see another team that pressed Louisville when they play them, because they're going to get up. They're going to try to force tempo and speed up this Kentucky group and make them play faster and really not allow that size to be as impactful.
Devin Booker has now matched his career high of 19 points.
And Devin Booker's also grabbing at his leg a little bit. They're going to take a timeout to get him out.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell if it was a clamp or...
Welsh comes on. So does Dominique Hawkins. John Calipari still coaching on the Kentucky bench at 79-37, 3:04 to go. And now let's take a look at the AT&T Fast Analysis. Greg?
They have been pretty fast, have those Wildcats. That shooting, you know, that's really been the one question mark about this group. Well, and the 2 times I've seen them, it has not been much of a question. 12 of 25 from beyond the arc. And when you defend the way they do, I would say if they could sustain this level of shooting, they probably would be unbeatable.
Euless back on the floor. 2:53 to go. I got to tell you now, if I'm the parents of Sam Malone, Todd Lanter, E.J. Florial, Brian Long, I'm thinking, really? My kids, my sons can't get on the floor?
Yeah.
They are grouped at the end of the Kentucky bench, 81-37.
I'm a little surprised by that they haven't gotten in yet.
Yeah. Now, I'm learning about all this. Here at the other end is Harrison. 2 more. You just got a tweet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm so familiar with all this. From a teammate, right?
Well, Derek Anderson, who was a great player at Kentucky, he goes, we scored 86 points and a half at LSU, beat Tim Duncan and Van Horn teams by 30 points. He said, so this team is great, speaking of this rendition of the Wildcats, but his group was the greatest of all time at UK. So I guess now we know where this is headed. I think we're going to have that debated. Of course, ultimately, it's not a discussion until this team, or if this team doesn't win it all.
1:41 to go. Substitute alert. At the next dead ball, we're going to get a couple of fresh bodies.
I think Cal heard you.
I think so, too. Air ball. Largest margin of defeat, 48 points at Stanford. We've already mentioned, and not to belabor the issue, but the 7 points scored by UCLA in the first half, the fewest number of points ever scored. Well, one of the assistant coaches in his first year now for Kentucky is Barry Rorson, good friend of all of ours in college basketball. Slice, as he is known. I first met him when he was on Ben Howland's staff. There he is. He is a character. And he was telling us yesterday his relationships can be formed. He met John Calipari when they were roommates at Howie Garfinkel's 5-star camp in Pittsburgh in 1979. And Slice later became a head coach and didn't last. Happens in coaching.
1 minute remaining.
And now he's on the staff. He said, how good is my timing?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Rejected.
Block shot there by Johnson. And Slice was talking about it. Their friendship's really been bonded. It was bonded in that experience. He said they were roommates that entire summer at the camps. And hard to imagine that from there you could end up here.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Isn't that the truth? Now, on the floor for Kentucky, there's Barry Rorson. We were doing a game in Pittsburgh when he was on the staff, and he said, I got a place in the Italian neighborhood of Pittsburgh, and he sent a limo for us. I mean, a stretch limo. But you got a heck of a budget. And there is Corey Alford with the block. By the way, on the floor for Kentucky right now, number 32, Brian Long. If you believe there are no seniors on this Kentucky team, he belies the fact. He is a senior.
Well, it has been as impressive a performance as I've seen all league. And listen, we forget about what they did to a very good Kansas team when they beat them by 32 earlier this season. But this game more impressive because of how good they were really on both ends.
It's in the books. 83-42.
The 2015 CBS Sports Classic will be held in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center.
Kentucky shot 50% from the field, UCLA 25%. Convincing win, and we'll be back in Chicago after these messages.